From the dawn of time, our ancestors have left us with the tales. Stories which speak of things that they have seen and lived alongside by, feared, respected, and even looked to some of them as godlike. Modern man refers to such things as spirits, extraterrestrials, demons, cryptids, creatures, and entities of all kinds, and so much more. These things and tales are now referred by most as myths and legends. But there are those of us that know what our ancestors spoke of was the truth. Those of us that have become obsessed in searching for answers and finding out the truth are here. We need the truth. This search brings us into the realm of the unexplained and unknown. It brings us on the trail. The search for living legends. Please join JR and I on the quest, and welcome to the search.
Good evening, everybody. We're all a little bit tired this evening, but we're going to put out one more show for you. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of On the Trail in Search of Living Legends. This year, we have a great cast, great group of guys. We have Shawn, who has returned to us, which I am totally stoked about. Shawn, how's it going, brother?
Hey, man. Glad to be back. It's been pretty busy doing some other stuff and taking care of things, but I'm back, ready to go.
Good. Glad to have you back, man. Glad to have you back. And, of course, back is Mr. JR Kitchen.
Yeah, man.
JR, what's going on?
Hey, oh, it's all good. How's everybody this evening?
Yeah,
Good to see you, Shawn.
Good, man. Good to see you.
I tell you, wonderful. I'm Brian. And this year we have brought a stellar individual on the show who is just a great guy, great wealth of knowledge, and he fits perfect with this group right here, Mr. Travis Bowen. Travis, it's an honor to have you with us this year, man. How's it going?
Doing good, Jeremiah. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have you, buddy. Glad to have you. Tonight, we have a distinct pleasure of interviewing a great friend of ours, one of our, great friend, fellow researcher, fellow show host. We've done a lot of work with this gentleman in the past. Couldn't ask for a better guy, Mr. Gary SpikesJr. Gary, how's it going, my friend?
Who's Gary? Oh, me. No. Doing good. Tired as hell, but we're here.
We're here, buddy. We're here. Thanks for coming on, bud. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. I know we interviewed you, what was it, 2 years ago now?
Over 2 years, yeah.
Yeah. Time flies, eh? Wow.
Yeah.
I guess we're getting old. Yeah.
It dang sure started the ball rolling.
Yeah, it did. And I'm glad, because we've all developed a good relationship. We all work real well together, and I think we're all doing pretty good with this whole these shenanigans we go through. But anyway, yeah, I mean, this is going to be, for all you people out there listening tonight, this is, in all my time doing this is one of the most intense encounters I've ever heard. So I am going to start off by, letting Gary, if he doesn't mind, give us a little background on himself.
Born and raised in southern Oklahoma. Typical young country boy life, hauling hay, living on the farm. Man, we got bad feedback. I wonder if that's me.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Is that better?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Born and raised on the farm.
Can't hear you as well, but it's better.
Can't hear it all now.
Yeah, can't hear you, buddy.
Testing 1, 2. Testing 3, 4. Can you hear me now?
No.
We can hear you, but it's lower.
It still sucks, Gary. What'd you do?
I'm not on my regular system.
We could just hear you. We're good. We're good. What did you do, Gary?
How about now?
What'd you do, Gary?
That's good.
Hey,
No,
that'll
you
work.
still-
That'll work.
That's on Jeremiah. Hey, have you
That's
got your
on-
phone close to your computer?
It's off, but no power. It's off.
Yeah, but you.
There.
That sounds like a bandwidth issue.
Yeah. It does, doesn't it? Bear with us here a second, folks.
Okay, I just isolated all of mine.
Okay. Okay, that sounds better. Okay.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Gary. Continue if you know. Sorry about that, everyone.
Like I said, born and raised in southeastern Oklahoma, typical country boy, hunting and fishing most of my life. Joined the military at a young age, 17. 8 years with the Army Rangers. Got out, did the rest of my time in the oil field. And that's annoying. I'm going to get into all the details of what got me into bigfooting. I spent a lot of time. Let me try something. Okay, see if that helps.
I can hear you.
Okay.
You're a lot clearer.
Okay. I'll shut down my camera because of the bandwidth here.
Okay.
Make a long story short, specialized while I was in the military.
Perfect. There's no echo now.
Cool. Spent most of my time in the military, of course, in the infantry and doing the hunting thing. Of course, y'all all know how that goes. Learned how to track. Got out of the military, worked in the oil field for off and on for the rest of my life until I retired about 4 years ago. But while I was doing that, I also trained tracking dogs and tracked part-time for the Department of Game and Wildlife Management and Department of Corrections here in Oklahoma. Specialized in, I guess if you say I specialized in anything, I specialized in live interactive tracking, within 2 or 3 miles behind somebody, within a day or two behind them. Spent a lot of time in the wilderness. Spent a lot of times, we actually me and the wife teach wilderness survival now, and primitive life skills. But so we had an early experience in life. As a young gentleman, my grandfather was retired. We would go to Alaska and Colorado all over hunting during the summer season in between schools. Grandfather loved to hunt, and I had the great opportunity of being able to go with him. Had a kind of a little sighting, I guess, when I was like 12, 13 years old in Colorado. We seen something cross a two-track, what I call them. I don't know if y'all call them that up there, but a logging trail. Bipedally. Bipedally.
Okay.
Grandfather wouldn't talk about it. That's what got me started. So I started, of course, like everybody else, like all you guys, In Search Of, Legend of Boggy Creek, reading all the books. I've actively been researching now, or searching. I don't think there is a certain thing as researching. I mean, we all are in the search of for about 24, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now you wanted to hear the 2016 Class A sighting, right?
We did.
Yeah, it's funny because the first time I ever told that story in public, except for face to face with my best friends and wife, was with you guys. Shawn, I think you was there. JR was there. Of course, Jeremiah.
It was me, Shawn, and JR. Yep.
Yeah.
I was there.
What's that?
You weren't you, JR?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was totally there.
You were what?
I said, I was totally there, man. I was there.
You're totally there. Totally there. I got you. Okay.
Totally.
I guess where to start with this. 2016 was working in the oil field. Was doing active research with a couple of groups as an independent researcher with a couple of groups out of Texas and Oklahoma, and got a phone call from a fellow researcher out of South Texas that said he had two guys that wanted to go into the southeastern Oklahoma area, prospectively Honobia area, which everybody knows I'm kind of from that area and I spend a lot of time down there, and he would ask me if I'd like to take them. But what was funny about that whole story is the weekend that happened, it was actually Thanksgiving Eve. I was supposed to have went with the wife to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to her family's, but I ended up having to work. But if any of y'all knows how the oil field is, that can change in a split second. If they lose the contract or if the weather, you don't get to go. And I told the guy, I said, I ended up calling the wife, and I got myself in trouble because I called the wife and I said, I'm going to go southeastern Oklahoma instead of coming to northeastern Oklahoma with you. And she said, fine, which, as y'all know, when they say that, you might as well give it up. You're done in trouble. And here we go again. Just a second, guys. I'm jumping back on Wi-Fi. Okay. Man. Move this. Sorry, guys. I'm a tech freak, and this is driving me nuts. Let's try that. That did it. Moved phones. Ended up driving to southeastern Oklahoma to meet these guys. Met them. Now I'm known to do this out of respect for the guys and out of respect everybody involved. I'm not going to say their names because if anything's discredited or something like that, I don't want to press that on anybody else. Jeremiah, you know how I am. Met the two guys. They look like they stepped straight out of a bad horror flick. You know, dressed in brand new clothes, brand new packs and everything. And I'm like, you guys want to go researching? They said, yep. So we headed up the hill. I'm not going to get into all the big details. I think Jeremiah, you want to concentrate more on the description and what happened.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep.
Give you a little geographical area. If any of y'all are in the crowd and has ever heard of the siege of Honobia, one of the famous Bigfoot encounters, we was literally 3/4 of a mile behind that cabin where we started. And we walked about another mile and a half up into the mountains there. Went up, set up camp. We didn't make it as far as we wanted to because I didn't get down there until like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So we set up camp. It was probably about 11 o'clock when we set up camp. Folks will have to understand when I'm researching like that, I sleep with a sleeping bag underneath a cedar tree or something. I don't take a tent hardly. I just sleep out in the open. These guys had their tents. They set everything up. We built a little campfire, sitting around the campfire and just talking. Had a good time. Great conversation with the guys. Very knowledgeable for what I thought they was at the time, and they turned out to be great bunch of guys. But we'd been there probably an hour and a half, 2 hours sitting up there talking, and we heard that, I always call it the bionic whippoorwill coming up over the hill. You know, that, and it's got that crazy little warble at the end of it.
Yep.
We sat there a little bit longer, and we started hearing like twig snaps and stuff. And you know, and you don't think nothing about it until after hindsight's 20/20, but you don't think a whole lot about it. I ended up getting tired, and I said, guys, we probably ought to hunker down and get some sleep and start up in the next morning. So I slid underneath my the cedar tree. I have to describe where we was at. We was going up the 2-track, but it kind of dropped into a hollow, that was about 30 yards in diameter that was the road was facing north and south. My cedar tree was on the downhill slope, and their tent was on the uphill slope of that little 2-track, and it was kind of just a little hollow basin there, and that had the campfire right in the middle. So if a car or something was to come up that 2-track, they would have literally drove right over the campfire. The individuals that I was with, I was facing with my back to the campfire, facing down the hill. They was faced with their back facing up the hill, facing the campfire. I slid into my sleeping bag underneath the cedar tree, which would have been about 12 foot from the campfire on the downhill slope, with my feet facing the downhill slope, my head facing uphill towards the campfire. Had been laying there for probably, I had just enough time to really start settling in and fixing to go to sleep because I was pretty damn tired. And I literally heard twigs snap coming up the hill about 10 feet below me. And the first thing in my head was like, this son of a bitch is sneaking up behind this cedar tree. He probably knows I'm here. And I just laid there. At the time that I'm listening to him coming up the hill, we literally hear rocks coming from above them over their shoulder, landing by the campfire. Then we heard 3 wood knocks to the northeast of us up the hill about 20 yards out. Then we heard an answering wood knock down the hill to the west of me about 30 yards out. What was really unnerving to me was the one that was sneaking up behind that cedar tree. He had probably gotten, I'm not for sure. You don't know unless you're looking at him. He had probably gotten to within like probably 25 or 30 feet of me, but he was trying to be quiet. That's what was unsettling to me. I slid out of the sleeping bag, looked at the guys. I said, let's get the heck out of here. I had to kind of get a little bit testy with them, saying, hey, there's not only the ones you hear, but there's also ones that you don't hear that are moving around. It's time to go. And I don't normally do that, but we know everybody in this area, everybody that researches this area for the last 30 years knows that this troop or group, however you want to put it, is known to be kind of aggressive, because AKA the Siege of Zenobia, and a lot of other reports from that area. So we packed up, started heading down the hill as of course, now I have to backtrack. As I slid out of the sleeping bag, of course, we're making a lot of noise, making a bunch of difference in patterns. I've learned later. Sorry, guys. As I learned later about the patterns, so it changed their behavior. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I can't hear Jeremiah. Okay. Sorry, Jeremiah. Make a long story short, we changed patterns. They got all excited. They started knocking wood knocks around us. It didn't sound real aggressive, 1 over here with an answering 2 over here. I looked at the guys, we're going to leave. We headed down the hill. If y'all want to catch the full story of that part, you can catch it on Jeremiah's other show. He'll tell you where to find that. We headed down the hill, almost a mile and a half. They literally followed us out. I had one guy behind me shining a flashlight behind us. I was with my headlight and flashlight in the point position, and the guy right behind me was shining a flashlight over my shoulder. I told him to scan with flashlights and bright lights all the trees. But the guy behind me says he swore he saw shadows and eye shine all the way down. We knew they was paralleling us because they was making, just little subtle noises. Wood snap here, tree knock here, rocks flying, all the way down. As we get into this, as all you guys know, this is a very specialized behavior that they do. They don't do it all the time, but when they do it, they mean their business.
Yep. If they're pacing you out, they mean. If they're pacing you out like you're describing, is that what you're saying? They were kind of pacing you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they was definitely escorting us out.
Yeah, exactly. You're being escorted out. They mean business.
I got a question, Gary.
Yeah.
Why was you leaving? Why was you leaving out? How come did you get scared, or I mean?
Be blunt with you. Yeah, I'm up in the woods with two guys I don't know. I didn't even know if they was armed. I had a 45 with me, but honestly, didn't know these guys. Didn't know nothing about them. The way they was dressed and the way they was acting, I wasn't very comfortable in the situation with them.
Right.
I mean, and like I said, any of you guys come to Oklahoma, huh? What'd you say, Joe?
I just said I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I was just wondering, just in case that I missed something, like why?
Yeah.
Why would you leave out an incredible experience like that? I mean, yeah, you might get slapped or you might get eaten or something, but hey, man.
Well, as we get into, of course, you know the story, but as we get into here in a little bit, you think I left out quick that time anymore after seeing what I seen? I leave out a hell of a lot quicker. But I mean, they literally just escorted us down the hill, and it was so weird because as we got to the bottom, down there in the open area where they do all the logging, and they've got it all clear cut. It was literally like they stopped 100 yards from the outer edge of the, stopped making noise 100 yards from the edge of the tree line. They probably followed us all the way to the tree line, but they stopped. I swear, man, it was like 100 yards from the edge of the tree line. They just got quiet. It's like, okay, we've had enough. You're gone.
That's interesting. That's like you and I, we were talking about the other night. We're seeing these same behaviors.
Yeah.
We've all had discussions how we've been paced out by these things, and it's always seems to be before, about 75 yards before you get to, the end of the wood, to the end of the wood line, they'll stop.
Yeah.
Or were you 75 yards before, or once you get to your vehicle, they stop about 75 yards behind you. It's just. Sorry for cutting in. I decided that just crossed my mind.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, and we've all, I mean, every one of us has had experiences, in this field similar to this, that it makes you sit back and reflect. If I knew, if I know now, if I knew then what I know now, I'd have probably handled that situation totally different. But at that time, the response that I had, I mean, it was unsettling up to that point, but what happened later was even worse. We got down to the bottom of the hill, and the guys literally wanted to go back the next morning, try to find tracks or whatever. And I didn't want to, because I knew this area, and I knew these, as you want to say it, these entities or target species or whatever. And I've always been under the reflection in the studying that I've done that if they pace you out of the woods, it means they don't want you the hell there.
Exactly.
You damn sure don't go traipsing back in there unless you got a platoon of daggone special forces with you.
Right.
You're asking for trouble.
Yep.
And make a long story short, they said they was going to go back up there whether I was going to be there or not. I couldn't let them do it, without me there. So I agreed to stay with them. So they set their tents up. By this time, it's 2 or 3 in the morning. And they set their tent up. I was like, screw this. I just crawled in my truck. And saying that, I probably need to describe the truck. It was an 88 Chevy, 3/4 ton with the 3-inch lift on it on the back end. By the time we got 2-inch lift, we got done with it with 3110 50s. So easily, single cab Chevy pickup. Easily, the top of the truck was above my head. So it's well over, about 6'2", 6'3". I'm 5'10" or so. And the reason I'm saying that is what happens next. I crawled in I'm kind of being short, and I sleep on my side. I just slid into the seat of the truck. It was cold in my sleeping bag and went to sleep. And because we was going to be up in a few hours anyway, and was laying there, fell asleep. Now I have to describe where we was parked. I was parked on one side of the 2-track at the bottom facing south. The tree line was about 10 yards behind my rear bumper. 10 yards behind my rear bumper. Why does it keep doing that? Their car was parked off of my right front fender. They set the tent up at the front of their car. So if they was in their tent, if I'd have turned on my headlights, I'd have lit up their tent. And they was about 10 yards in front of my, about 30 foot in front of my front bumper. I'm laying there, so my head would have been facing the east. That ridge line that we came down was straight east of my truck. As I'm laying there, something woke me up. I don't know what it was. It was probably about 4:30 in the morning. Something woke me up, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if the truck got bumped or what, but I woke up, and the first thing, anybody that wears glasses like I do, the first thing you do when you wake up, even when I'm camping, even when I'm sleeping, my glasses, you can't see me because I got the camera off, but my glasses sit on my chest when I'm sleeping, or I leave them on my face. That night they happened to be on my chest. The first thing I did, or it was right by my chest, the first thing I did was slide my glasses on and just laid there. Anybody that's been in the woods know you don't just start jerking around when you wake up. When you hear something, you lay there and listen to it. And I was laying there. I didn't hear nothing. I looked up. Something made me look up, and in my driver's side window was a shadow. And the reason it was a shadow is because the glass was fogged up. And I distinctly remember seeing the glass fogging and fading out and fogging and fading out. So whatever it was breathing on the window. Next thing I remember dramatically, immediately, is the shadow was wider than the truck window. I could see its left shoulder out the windshield through the doorpost. So you see the window, so you see the doorpost and the windshield. You see its left shoulder. Its right shoulder. You see its left shoulder. It's driving me nuts. Its right shoulder was out the back glass. So this thing was wider than my truck door was. It was a single cab. This thing was breathing in the glass. You could see it fogging up. Its face. If of course, being at night and with me being extremely excited, extremely scared. But it was probably, if it was fogging up, I'm figuring it probably wasn't but about 10 at the most inches from the window. And
oh my God.
I've distinctly seen its head. And it's funny, in the show we did prior to this, Travis, he was talking about it's funny how things slow down on you as time goes. Yeah. I think about things. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you. Yeah.
I distinctly.
It slows down, time it goes by. It's quick. It's a quick thing, but it just seems, like Krabs was saying earlier, it just seems longer than it is,
Yeah. I distinctively remember seeing the top of the head as it kind of dropped its head down. I distinctively remember its shoulders. And like I said, the main thing with me is the width and the mass of the shoulders. They easily stuck out 6 inches either side of the door pillars, so this thing, what would y'all say a cab of a truck's what, from the windshield to the back glass is 3.5, 4 foot?
Mm-hmm.
It was wider than that. And I screamed.
JR, that'd be.
Huh?
No, I just was saying that would be JR's department. I would think the truck specialist. I'm just playing around.
No. Go ahead. I'm just.
I was. I'm gonna be blunt with you. I screamed. I lost control of my every function. I mean, I literally just lost it. And I don't know how long I screamed, and I don't know how long this thing stood there and looked at me, but I distinctively reached forward and started to grab. That truck had one of you remember the Indian blanket, for lack of better terms. JR, what are you doing there? Indian blanket seat covers. It's got the pocket on the front of the seat.
Yeah.
I had the 45 stuck in that pocket. And I reached for it, and I don't know. I'm gonna be blunt with you. I don't know it distinctively did that, but I swear the thing looked at me, looked at the pistol, looked at me, and it was like it recognized. I could literally see the light changing from it turning its head, and it was almost like it recognized me going for the gun, and then it kind of blew in the window and fogged it up even more and stood up. And when it stood up, it kept standing up and it kept standing up. And when that thing went to turn right, I mean, I distinctively remember the way it looked turning. It turned to its right, would have went down the tailgate of my truck, which was pointing, towards the brush line. And the top of my truck maybe hit it right below the nipple line. So it was a good head and shoulders above the top of the truck. And it took I heard three distinctive crunches on that gravel in a matter of just a second or so. And then it sounded like a bull moose hitting the brush. I mean, it just crashed through the brush. And by this time, I'm starting to get my functionality back. That kind of the funny part of the story, JR, you'll appreciate this being the mechanic. That truck had a 383 stroker in it with a turbo 400 with 373 positive track. And my wife used to drag race Corvettes and stuff with it just to be ornery. We had to put 3 rear ends in it because she was always hammering on it. But I fired that thing up and it had the old school cherry bombs on it. But I fired that sumbitch up, and I know those bright headlights hit those guys in the tent. I cut a 360. I slung gravel all over that tent, all over the car, all over them, and I was gone. I did not stop until I hit Clayton, Oklahoma, and pulled into the gas station. They've got a tribal gas station there that's 24 hours, and I pulled in there, and the lights was on, and I sat there, and guys, I'm gonna be blunt with you. I sat there and cried for about 10 minutes, just trying to figure out what I'd just seen and what was going on. And I called the one person that
yeah.
Huh?
I said, I get it. You're trying to process what just happened to you.
Yeah. I mean, we all, I think I had my sight in when I was younger, but nothing compares to this. I mean, there's like I said, I called the one person that I knew, the only person I had left to call except for my wife, and I damn sure wasn't going to call her, 5 o'clock in the morning when I should have been in Tulsa with her anyway. I called my dad, and my dad is literally about 2 hours from there. And I told him what's happened, and I didn't know at the time, but later on we kind of expressed it to each other. And now, of course, Jeremiah, that Dad's been a believer for years. It's just been kind of a family taboo thing for us to talk about. Yep. And I called him. He said, "Come home." He said, "Get your butt over here." So I flew over there, and we sat and talked about it. And I described it and wrote everything down because I've always been that type of person. I write shit down in the journal. But we wrote everything down, and it took me a long time to process it. I'm going to be blunt with you. I've seen this thing's eyes. I've seen its nose. I've seen its mouth. I'll get into that in just a minute or two. Its shoulders. Once again, you cannot get the perspective of the mass of one of these things' shoulders. I mean, I'm a big guy. I'm 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Bench press about 300 too. But this thing would have made me just dwarf me. I mean, just if you took Eddie Hall, one of the world's strongest men, and put him at about 9 foot and put about 3 foot on it, add 3 foot to his shoulders, that's what he'd look like.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, you really can't fathom how large these things are until you actually see one.
Yeah. Well, that was 2016. I didn't never go back to that spot until last year?
Yeah, I think
we went down to the Zenobia, and I took 2 fellow researchers. My brother from another mother, I call him, but Shane Carpenter from Ozark Mountain Sasquatch, and
good
another
guy
great researcher. Yeah, and another great researcher that's very dedicated, and that's Mr. Randy Arrington. We went back to that spot. Yes, I did, JR. I drove all the way to Ada. But make a long story short, now you done made me totally lose my thought. Folks, we're not going to talk about that. But when we went back, it was still really emotional for us. What are you laughing at, Jeremiah? Did you
I just read it. Never. Okay, keep going.
But for about 6 months after that, my wife was sitting out here. I'll tell you how bad it affected me, and then I'll get back to the description. I had PTSD from it. My wife was literally snoring one night, and I shoved her ass out of the bed. It affected me to the point that, JR, don't you even start. I'm not going to get into all that boo-hoo and stuff, but it affected me. It
does.
Got me laughing.
It does affect you, man. It really does.
I will jump in on the size thing. I know I've seen 3. I've had a couple more I'm not sure about, and I ain't claiming it. But the one I did see up close that I flashed with a white light. I got a bad feedback too. I would compare it back to a sheet of plywood. It was about 4 feet across the shoulders. So it was extremely, extremely large. I mean,
right.
To the point that, you hear these dimensions and people talk about the height and the weight and the size, and you really cannot appreciate that until you've really seen it.
No, you can't. And, I'll add to that too. I mean, I think, the width of the shoulders is impressive, absolutely. Personally, I think the most impressive thing about these things is the width from front to back. It's depending on the individual, of course, but man, yeah, from my experiences, front to back, from front of the chest to the back of the, their spine, the width is just incredible as well. I mean, just a gargantuan creature altogether. It's unbelievable, and you can't fathom it until you've seen one. And that's a great, Travis, you put that perfect, man.
I got something to add to that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The one that I saw was a juvenile. It wasn't very big at all. But what he just said a little while ago hit home with me. When I saw the one that I saw, I did the same. I didn't lose all bodily function or anything like that. But I was in my truck on the edge of the field, and when I pulled out, I drove around the corner, and I was crying. Same thing. I was losing my shit. PTSD. I thought, I'm never going to be able to hunt again. I can't bring my kids down here. It was freaking me the fuck out. I mean, just big time. So I called my girlfriend, and I happened to be on speaker, and I'm crying, and I'm telling her what I just saw, and they all kind of laughed at me, and that sucks.
It does suck.
That sucks, but it doesn't matter how big these. I mean,
no, it really does.
It's gonna freak you out. It's gonna freak you out beyond anything.
I'll believe. Yeah, I agree.
Something that's not real is all of a sudden real. It fucks up your head.
It does. About it. The first one I saw was a juvenile too, Shawn, and it ruined my hunting for a couple of years. I mean, regardless of the size, it's something that's, even if you are a believer, it's still.
I wasn't.
Yeah, right. I can't even imagine that. And I was at least a believer, and I still had problems processing what I was looking at. So. Yeah,
I'm just glad I was able to reach out and talk to some people, and found you guys right away, and I talked to Wes Germer and did Sasquatch Chronicles and got it off my chest, and it really helped me emotionally, and I'm able to deal with shit a lot better now, for sure. PTSD is real, man.
Experience. Tell me, Shawn, what did you see? Shawn, what do you think these things are?
What did I see? You're going back to Sasquatch Chronicles.
I was just hacking on Wes a minute. I like Wes.
Yeah, he's a good dude. The more I look at this shit, the weirder it gets, and the more out there I get with my thought process on what they actually are. There's more to them than.
Hey, Yeah,
I think you hit a real good point, Shawn.
Yeah.
Let me throw something at you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
I know JR has seen one, and Jeremiah, I know you've seen one at like 20 foot. I know Travis has seen a couple. Shawn, how far do you think you was from what you've
I was
seen?
30 yards.
30
But
yards.
I was using binoculars, man. I had a good look at the thing's face.
Good look at it. Yeah.
Even so, that's still damn close. You know.
Here's the thing for me. If this thing wanted to kill me, it could have reached in that door, ripped the door off, took me out, wrapped me up like a pretzel, and shoved me up that damn exhaust pipe.
Absolutely. No doubt.
These things, I get a kick out of, we did that show the other day where they talk about, what guns they'll use.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, I've talked to too many hardcore warriors.
Yes.
I've been called a hardcore warrior. I've got medals to prove it. This thing scared the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Literally scared the shit out of me.
Sure.
I mean, I'm telling you.
I'm sorry.
Listen,
no, I
sit in the front seat and drive 2 hours down the road, man, without either in your drawers, man, is a hardcore warrior, man. That's hardcore. That's all you're doing.
Fellas, I don't have nothing.
I pissed myself, and me being a fighter, not a human being on earth at that time I was afraid of, but this thing made me piss my pants. I mean, it's something. It's just something that people can't relate to unless they experience it themselves, and that's all there is to it.
Well,
I don't have it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, the one, like I said, I know I've seen 3. And I'll tell anybody, there's been a couple other things that I'm not going to claim because I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think, but I mean, I'm not going to claim it. But the one that I definitely got the best look at, which was just a glimpse, but in a white light, my particular situation, I had my mama and my 14-year-old daughter right there with me. And I was camped out on top of an AR-15 with a 30-round mag. And the light I hit it with was actually a tack light on the rifle. And at the moment, it didn't really – I was a little rattled, because it was so weird, but it didn't really scare me. But I think the reason it didn't scare me that bad was because my protective instinct was my mom and my daughter.
That's right. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
But like a day or so later, the more I thought about everything, the whole situation, how it all played out, it's kind of like being a wreck. You don't have time to care, but after the fact, you really start thinking everything through calmly. And that's when you kind of hit that, oh, shit, this really happened.
Right.
There,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it is, it's traumatizing, period.
It is.
It is. See something that's not supposed to exist is that big that all of a sudden you have to accept the fact that there's something that big and powerful, stealthy, smart, that lives among us in the woods. And we're all guys that go out in the woods.
Yeah.
It does. It really does change your whole aspect on a whole lot of stuff.
It really does. And to go sorry, Gary, I don't mean to cut in to your this is your show right now and stuff.
No.
I just want to add one thing to what Shawn said. Shawn made a great point, and I think we've all this group right here, we've all had conversations amongst each other. There is more to this than we think. I mean, I'm not going to dive right into it, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. There's just more to it. Than what a lot of people think they are. Yep. I guess what I'm trying to say is, every time I think I come up with a theory on what this is probably what they are, something else weird, something weirder happens to throw that fucking theory right out the window. You know what I mean? So I've probably been through 6 theories on what I think these things are, and every time I think of a new one, goes out the window.
I'll
You know what I'm
say
saying?
the evening we had our experience, first of all, I was not out there for that.
Right.
The rifle I had in my hands, total, I've got about $2,000 in that gun.
Yeah.
Between the gun, scope, optics, I mean, it's fairly high end. I mean, it's good equipment.
Absolutely.
And this thing took its time, stalked around, downwind. I paid attention. It was downwind the whole time, and managed to stay completely out of my sight until it had actually came around behind us. And that last, I mean, and I'm talking about, when I say sound, I mean, you talk about like a house cat.
Yeah.
It was impressively, it humbled me in
Sure.
every way as a man, a hunter, a woodsman, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
Sure.
And
That's a good
that really put a whole lot,
into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, really, because the more I thought about it, all the times I've been out at night by myself, predator hunting. I do a lot of predator hunting.
Yeah.
If they wanted to get me, they could have got me.
And that's the thing. Yeah. And
So
that's the thing. If they wanna, they're gonna.
Yeah.
Gary, I remember we got into that last week. I mean, Gary, you brought, when we brought that up last week, they want to get you, they're going to get you, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
That's my belief, anyway. But
I have to quote Wes Grimmer, and Shawn mentioned Wes Grimmer earlier. But about this, I'm finding out the more I learn about these things, the less I know.
Well, that's the thing. Every time you answer a question, 10 more pop up.
Yeah. And you mentioned Wes. I'm going to say it again. He has a saying, what is the one thing that you remember the most? What is that one thing that stood out to you when you had your sighting? And outside of the width of the shoulders and the mass of it was the size of its fucking mouth.
Yeah. Tell me about the mouth there.
The only way I know how to describe it, I mean, I said its eyes, its nose, and its head was massive. Its head had to be the size of a bigger than a basketball in space, but its eyes was wide apart. JR, you damn laughing.
I know it's going through his mind.
But its eyes was real wide apart and humongous. I mean, they was the size of course, in comparison to the head and the animal, they're not overly big, but they was the size of, easily the size of golf balls. But the only way I could ever describe the mouth is it was real squared off. But do you remember them old horror shows like where a person would get their mouth slit wide open across the teeth line? That's what this looked like. I mean, and it wasn't, but what was so funny is it wasn't unnatural. I mean, it was the mouth in comparison to the face and head, it was just humongous. I mean, I think this thing could have stuck could open its mouth and probably, I didn't see its hands. If its hands was in comparison to the rest of the body, they're humongous. But this thing's mouth, when it kind of was breathing, how it kind of opened up its mouth, and I've seen a little bit of its teeth. All right, you guys. But I think this thing could take a cantaloupe and just take a bite out of it, like we do an apple.
Right.
And then just like you was talking about the previous show before, we was just talking a little while ago, and you show that picture of that bone, and they talk about the size of the incisors. Well, that's in comparison with the mouth, But these things are massive. They are flat out massive.
Massive. I told you that the width, that female, I hate to keep reiterating myself, but it just reminds me. It sounds like they looked quite similar, because the friggin' her mouth, I always say it looked like it was, at the time I was so freaked out, it looked, the mouth looked like it stretched from ear to ear, which in all reality was an exaggeration. You know what I mean? But that's the way I could put it, But it's very wide mouth, and to be honest with you, man, it looked like it could open its mouth and just bit my head off.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean, man. Yeah, I know what you mean.
One of the, I've told this story a little bit, but I had one person, the only negative comment I've ever got about this, and most people, and which is unreal in this community, because people like to rip your stories apart and your credibility and all that. But I had one person talk about 3 steps in 30 feet. Man, that sounds kind of far fetched. And I got to, of course, being the tracker that I am, and got to thinking about it. And I explained to this person, if you take something, and all you guys know, you take something that's 8, 9 feet tall, a 10-foot stride, if he's moving, that's not a long stretch. I mean,
no.
What would you say the average length on an average step of these things are? What, 5 to 7 foot?
About 5 or 6.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. I would say.
Just a casual walk. What I've seen is probably 5 to 6 foot.
Yeah.
And in proportion to what we do when we run, they say we are a human stride when we're running in a full out lunge. You're talking 30 to 40% on top of a regular stride. So it wasn't that far fetched to me, and that was another thing that was impressive to me, is how much distance. You hear stories of them being able to cover miles and stuff. Well, these things we're taking 3 steps to their 1.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah, I mean, the athleticism is unbelievable. It is.
Well, and I like how Travis put it. How can something that massive move through the woods that quietly?
They're masters at what they do. I mean, you got to think about it. They've had God knows how long to perfect this. You know what I mean?
Well, I can add that real simple. A black bear.
Yeah.
When they want to be quiet, they're impressively quiet.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I mean, a black bear, you take a 300-400 pound black bear that's on 4 feet to boot. They can be pretty quiet.
Look at the elephants in the safari. There's a book out there called Life of the Safari Hunter, and he talks about how you can be in the bush. You can be 10 feet from an elephant, and it just show up.
Oh,
especially if they're standing still. We don't know what kind of intelligence I do know. I know that these things have a higher intelligence, because that son of a bitch recognized that pistol, and I looked him dead in the eyes.
No
there
doubt.
was intelligence there. There wasn't none of this imaginary thinking that putting humanistic characteristics on it, because there was no chance for that.
No, they know what guns are, and that's all there is to it. Period. That's all there is to it. I don't care what people say.
They have to. I mean,
yeah.
Guns have been around for an extremely long time. Guns have been on the North American continent for over 300 years.
Yeah.
So they definitely know what guns are, and people carry guns.
Mm-hmm.
God willing, we'll be able to carry guns for 300 more years.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly
very
right.
good background, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think they know. And Travis, you and I have talked about this. I think as far as primitive weapons go too. I mean, they know if you're carrying a spear or atlatl, they're going to know it's any kind of weapon you're carrying. They're going to recognize it.
Yeah, I mean, they have to. They're super intelligent. If they're there and you're there, they're watching you. They're studying you, whether it's curiosity or whatever. They're going to pay attention to what you're wearing, what you have, what you're carrying.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just like, I showed y'all earlier, my new toy.
Yeah.
That's really obvious what that is.
Sure.
I mean, my dog don't even like it. She knows.
Right.
She knows there's something in my hand that's kind of foreboding, intimidating, whatever you want to call it.
Sure. Absolutely.
They're definitely always watching. And it's just like you, Jeremiah, when you were still down in North Carolina.
Yep.
One of your live broadcasts, I was on there watching, and I actually twice saw the eye shine from one peeking around a tree.
Yeah, you warned me. You told me because I didn't notice it.
And, you know, that's why I told you. I was commenting. I said, keep talking.
Yep.
Because you were alone. But if you just kept talking,
No.
at least in their mind, you're talking to someone, whether they might not know how where they were, but you were still talking to somebody.
Yeah, I still have that footage. Yeah. I remember you saying, Jeremiah, keep talking. One just peeked behind a tree. Yeah, I remember that, man. Yeah. But yeah, it's wild. I mean, now Gary, when you might have mentioned it already, but when this thing, when it took off. You still there?
I lost you.
Gary.
Say that again.
Okay. Yeah. You can hear me.
Yeah.
Can you describe like as far as the head goes, was it more of a roundish or was it more conical?
Yeah.
Honestly, it wasn't that. It was. You could tell that it had like a conical structure on it, but it wasn't that dominant.
Extreme.
Like, yeah. The biggest thing that got me is it was set real low in the shoulders, and that might have been because it just had its head leaning forward. But what got me is when it turned, and it was so funny because I just interviewed a individual a couple of weeks ago out of New Jersey, and he mentioned it. But once again, the size of the mouth and the way the jawline come down squared off,
Yeah.
the muscle structure of the jaw and the on the side of the face and the eye width apart. But no, the head wasn't real conical. I mean, you could tell that it was kind of rounded off, but it wasn't. It wasn't like you would see on a gorilla or something. It wouldn't be a deformity type, it'd be a gorilla or something. It wouldn't be a deformity type,
right.
It'd be.
Right. Ooh, we're kind of a lag there.
A lot of feedback.
Gary, I do have another question. After this incident, did you by any chance check your truck out to see if there's any kind of handprints, brush
We
marks?
sure did. Yeah, the only thing we found was a smudge on the driver's side window, like maybe where something had brushed up against it, maybe its nose or something. But no handprints, no nothing on the side of the truck. And of course, I couldn't recreate it perfectly because of the amount of time when we went back to the actual area. But I did film the pad that I was sitting on, and you could actually see the trees and stuff that I had remembered. But that's the reason we knew it was about 30 feet or so to the tree line. But no, we didn't see anything on the side of the truck, as in like it touched it or nothing like that. I honestly think it was just coming in to check us out. It's like, why are you still here? And I honestly believe that it was the big alpha male.
What was the look on his face, Gary? What did it look like? Like did he look at you real mean, or did he look at you like he was surprised, or?
Not really. I mean, I didn't get that. No, it wasn't surprised, but I didn't get a feeling. I guess that'd be the way you'd want to put it. The impression that I got from it. I didn't see a lot of meanness there. It was just looking, and there wasn't. That was probably one of the more disturbing things, is there wasn't a lot of emotion in it until I went to reach for the gun, and then it wasn't even. If you was to say that it was an emotion or an impression, it was like, really, it was like, okay, I'm gone. Maybe more, if you was to say anything, maybe curiosity or something, because it was so dark, I couldn't actually see the eyes. I could see the dark structure of them because the sun and everything reflecting off. I mean, the light reflecting off of the windshield, but I didn't get that good of a. I can't tell you a whole lot about its hair or anything like that. I do remember the teeth because of them being white. When it kind of snarled its teeth up, they opened up.
No. What did the nose look like, and the color of the skin and stuff? Can you describe the?
Well, it was too dark to see that. It was too dark to see the color real well, but its nose was broader than, of course, once again with the whole head structure being big, the nose was humongous. the nostrils. The reason I knew the nostrils is because of the breathing on the window. I could have reached up and stuck my thumb in one of the nostrils. And the distance from the mouth to the nose was another thing that got me. The nose was higher up, and the jawline was, a good inch or so, and then the mouth being so wide. But it was funny when it kind of turned its head, to look at my hand. I don't know if it was, once again, it's all perspective, but it could have been following my motion or what. But when it turned, another thing I noticed too is there was not a lot of slope to the forehead. I mean, there was a little bit of a brow. You could see where the brow line come down, but it was. I mean, I would almost say that it had a very humanistic face, except for the size of the mouth and the distance in between the eyes. The eyes was wider apart.
Interesting. You notice any ears?
No, I didn't see any ears. I didn't see any of the hair structure on the side of the.
Gotcha.
Good God.
The
nose. Huh?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm actually trying to keep from laughing right now.
Yeah, I know. I can tell. Are you? If you had to estimate a weight, Gary, just a wild guess.
I guarantee you, after what I've learned now from guys I would say 1,000 pounds easy. If he was to climb in the back of that pickup, he'd have squatted that 3/4 ton.
Right.
Honestly, he was that massive.
Yeah.
I still have a hard time even to this day. Even when I go out. Well, of course, most of y'all heard the audio I sent y'all, the other night.
Oh, yeah.
And knowing that these things are out there, especially in that area, it's a little bit unsettling. But I'd say 1,000 pounds. I'd say 1,000 pounds.
That's bad, and that's bad, that's massive.
I think I lost him.
You still hear me, Gary?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think anyone, not a lot of people. Like, I know we're all hunters here, so I mean, you think about that. We know, 1,000 pounds is huge.
Well, yeah. I mean,
the average person, they can't really fathom what 1,000
you figure,
pounds looks like,
I'm gonna be blunt. You figure a trophy bear, a trophy brown, will go 1,200 to 1,400 pounds, and he'll be 9 feet tall.
Right.
If they don't even point them unless they're 9 feet now. And this thing is. I'm not going to say that it would stand up in a one-on-one fight with a brown bear if a brown bear got on him, but these have got so much intelligence they're not going to fight them fair. But this thing would have been every bit as massive as a big brown standing up.
Sure.
But he wouldn't have the lower end. This thing was broad in the shoulders, and it narrowed down instead of where a brown bear is more kind of barrel looking. But I've seen.
It's cool you mentioned that. I heard it reminds me. I heard a story. I was reading an article. I forget, it was in one of the websites, but anyway, it was guys were grizzly hunting or brown bear hunting in Russia, right near the Aleutian Islands, right across from Alaska, where they almost meet, and they had native guides, obviously, and they came to a spot where it looked like all hell had broken loose, and they saw the bear a couple 100 yards up the hill, and they took him down. They shot him, and he was a big boy, easy, and they're big. You know more about brown bears than I do, Gary, but that and they described it as 9 feet. So that would have been what, 1,200 maybe.
Well, depending on the time of year, but a good 9-point bear, if he's a 9 square, he'd be 800 up easy. I mean, even right in the fall, yeah.
Right. especially in the coastal areas like that.
Oh yeah, the coastal browns are humongous.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was all, but they got it opened up. They got, and once they got it opened up, they noticed there was bite marks on the neck, large human-shaped bite marks. Okay, and when they had skinned it down and whatnot, and they also, it looked like something had gotten behind it, like in a jujitsu position, and had its legs wrapped around it and kept giving it the heel, the technique where you wrap your legs around someone and you heel them in the crotch almost.
Mm-hmm.
And, and there was hair ripped out of the chest area and stuff. Well, like I was saying, there was tracks, 3 sets of tracks. They were Sasquatch tracks. A large male is what the natives were saying, a female and a juvenile. And they said it's common in that part of the world. They were saying it happens, but thing is, what probably happened was it was at the tracks were right at a creek, and the natives said what probably happened was this bear came along while this family of Sasquatches were there drinking or fishing or whatever, and the female and the little one got out of there, and the male got into it with the brown bear. But what the native said was it's very rare that they will fight to the death or try to even, or very rare they'll even hurt each other, because they're both intelligent animals and they know that any type of wound can cause an infection, and cause death. So what they were in this article, what they were saying is that very rarely will go that far. They'll usually stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just reminded you saying that reminded me. I will actually give you guys the link to that so you can read it for yourselves. But anyway, sorry.
You're talking about those big coastal browns. That's one of that and the
Yeah.
tiger and the mountain lion are one of the few animals that will literally back trail or loop back on their trail and start hunting us.
Oh yeah.
A coastal brown will run. We discussed that the other night. Can run 30+ miles an hour.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And Travis, I love how I think it was you the one that said it about, you can walk right up on a brown, him laying down, and he'll be 10 feet from you and just raise up, and you don't even know he's there. Now you take something that massive, that mean, and put the intelligence of a human on top of it.
Yeah.
Well, talking just about power and endurance, I actually watched a documentary years ago, and they were on a helicopter following a Kodiak. I want to say it was on Yubanak Island off the coast of Alaska, but I'm not sure. And they were following this bear at 25 miles an hour for over 20 miles, and he never broke stride.
Wow.
And I mean, you talking about, this is 800,000-pound animal that maintained that gait over rough, uneven terrain without ever checking up. So something that massive that has that kind of endurance, continuous. I mean, there's no telling what they can do in a blast of real power.
Right. Absolutely. I mean,
I've seen the 602-pound black bear in person, dead.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
that's
a big
impressive
animal
in itself.
Yeah. Huge. People don't understand how big that really is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a few years ago, I actually hit a 350-pound black bear with my truck. I'm talking about a half-ton extended cab Chevrolet truck. And, I mean, I've hit deer before, but that thing was, it was like hitting a car.
Right.
And I almost hit my face on the steering wheel. And, just something that mass and weight, I mean, that's a 350-pound bear. So you get to talking about something that's 1,000, 1,200 pounds, bipedal hominid built of nothing but muscle and the bone to support it. I mean, you're really talking about an amazingly powerful animal.
Yeah, I mean, moose. I know you hit a moose up here. I mean, you may as well kiss your ass goodbye.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I mean, even like talking primates, a
yeah,
chimpanzee,
yeah,
on the average, you take 100-pound chimpanzee, a
mm,
male an adolescent male 100-pound chimpanzee is approximately 8 times stronger than a very fit, healthy man.
yes.
So just because their muscle fiber is so dense, they're so athletic, and I mean, we can't compete with that physically.
No,
No.
no way, no way, no
You
way.
look at some of the tree breaks and shit. I've got tree breaks in my area where they'll twist it and snap it off, and then they'll jam it into another tree and make a T structure. And there is no, I mean, the strength it would take to do that is there's no man alive that can even
No
come
way.
close.
No way.
It's incredible. They are incredibly strong.
Incredibly. I've got that one picture where they ripped that tree out by the roots, jammed it back in. They tied the root ball into a knot. I think I've shown you guys that picture, but it was from Pennsylvania. But who's gonna do that? Come on.
Oh, it was the wind. If you ask anybody,
It was the wind. Yeah.
The wind somehow did all that shit. It's crazy.
The wind. Yeah. Give me a freaking break. Granted, I'm not one that's out there to say, every, all this stuff is caused by Sasquatches, but let's be realistic. A lot of it is.
But there's some you can't. Yeah, I mean, I'm not convinced. Maybe it's not, but it's something. Something's doing it, and it ain't the wind.
Doing it. Yeah.
Well,
It's not a bird.
I found a pine tree several years ago. It was a 6'7" pine tree about 3-4 inches in diameter. It was twisted repeatedly down into basically a knot on the ground. And where it was, I mean, there's no way to get equipment to it or anything like that. There's no way to do that. It was just something random, weird I found in the woods. This was before I really got into the whole Bigfoot phenomenon,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I can't explain that.
It's just, it's incredible. Yeah, the power is incredible. I mean, it really is. Gary, you think that one is the alpha?
I honestly do. I mean, I tell you what, if he wasn't the alpha, I don't want to meet the alpha.
Right.
I mean, he was big enough he could have flipped that truck up, but
Sure.
But that after everything that I've talked to you guys and talked to, literally doing my show, I've talked to 150, 200 people easily in the past year, and learning about, theories on behavior and stuff. I think that the troop kind of ran us down the hill, and then he came in to investigate and say, hey, where are we going to take this from now on? And I just in my own personal opinion, I think that he made it a point to let me see him.
Yeah, that would make sense to me.
But Shawn talking about them tree twists, I had the great opportunity to trail something, if you want to say it, in southeastern Oklahoma, about 20 miles from where I had this sighting. I swear to God, he was right-handed, and he was marking the trail about 8 feet off the ground, and there was about anywhere from 4 to 6 inch breaks. But it was like he broke and twist inside to him the same way that I would do if I was marking a trail. A lot of times they teach us when we're marking a trail, we'll mark them on our right hand and then put them on our left hand coming out. That way we know, how to come out. And this was 8 feet in the air, and some of the trees was 6 inches, and some of them was 4 inches. And there ain't no human going to do that, and there ain't no wind that's going to do that consistently for that long a time. They was all twisted inside. It was like he grabbed, twisted to the inside, and then laid them down in the direction of the trail. They was laid down parallel with the trail all the way in to a pond. It was the funkiest thing I ever seen, but it was interesting.
Some of the stuff they do is it's just very, very funky. Very funky. I mean, and it makes you wonder the reasoning for, You know, a lot of that stuff. You know, I have my, you know, we all have our own theories. You know, but different things they do with the, you know, the structures and that case, one case I was on, you know, and where they took the little boys' toys and they were building these mounds and sticking the toys in the mounds, you know, and these would show up overnight. You know, it's just the weirdest freaking thing. Like, what are you doing? You know, I mean, what are you doing? You know, it makes you wonder why the hell they do stuff like that. But I mean,
Well,
I guess
well, here's
go ahead.
here's a crazy thing. You think about it. If these things do have near the intelligence that we do, they have one thing that we do not.
Right.
They do not have sociological stimulants that we do, as in technology, TV, government.
That's right.
They don't have they have a whole different social structure. What might be right to us is wrong to them. What
Right.
might be wrong to us, say, you know, murdering and eating your own kind, you know, might be a natural phenomena for them.
You know, and that's a good point. I mean, chimps do it. They're known to do it. You
Absolutely.
know, you know, as disturbing as it may sound, they do. They are known to do it. You know, and that's all there is to it. And like, yeah, good point. That's a great point, Gary. What may not be, what maybe sound weird to us is completely friggin' normal to them. You know, I mean, it's just a very interesting, field. That's for sure.
I'm on fun facts, Jeremiah. You know I'm full of fun facts. So,
Oh yeah.
As far as chimpanzees go, Jane Goodall, all the
Yes.
research she did all those years, those chimpanzees are more in Middle to Eastern Africa, I think.
Yeah, I think the Congo area, Cameroon.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're run by alpha males, and the
Yes.
alpha males they rule with absolute power.
Absolutely.
It's probably been the last 4 or 5 years, maybe a little bit longer. Far eastern Africa, near the coastline, they found a subspecies of chimpanzees, and I don't remember the name, but they're like pygmy chimps. They're small.
Bonobo. The bonobo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they're more closely related to us actually than the other ones are.
Yeah, well, you're gonna love this now. Their troops are actually ran by matriarch females.
Yes, and they're very sexual.
Very sexual. They control the troop by sex.
Yes, they do. Yep.
And the crazy thing about this is what I love about this is if you just look at people, and we can all relate to this. We as men want to be powerful, controlling. We use our whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, there's always been some woman in our life that controlled us in some kind of way by sex.
Abso-friggin-lutely.
So it's almost like these two different species of chimpanzees embody everything about us, but they're kind of split. Well, we just got it all mixed up and just going on.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's
and like what Gary's talking about, not understand, what their sociological way may be. We have no idea.
We have no clue.
No idea. The world is just an extremely fun, interesting place.
Yes, it is. Yes, it most certainly is.
Yep.
And then they found the new one. What's the one, the subspecies they found in 2007? The new great ape, the billy ape. It's what 6 feet, 6 feet, 350 pounds.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the power, the torque? I mean, the power. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Unbelievable.
Talking about that, I mean, it was a show that came on, didn't run long. It was like Man versus Animal or something like that.
Oh, I thought where the orangutan yanked the sumo wrestler into the.
Yeah. And that female orangutan, I mean, she just dominated this 300 and some pound sumo wrestler like he was just a toy.
Yeah.
They put him in a tug of war, and he was, I mean, using all his weight, his mass, his power. You know, he's a
And she
big,
was
strong
laughing.
man. And she
She's
just kind of
smiling.
laid back, real chill. She just drug him right on off the pedestal. Just
One-handed, I think she too, wasn't it? And she had one hand on.
yeah. Well, she had her feet holding on to the pedestal.
Holding on. Yeah.
Reached back with one hand, grabbed the rope, and she just real easy, just like a toy, just drug him off like like it won't nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. It really is.
And her, I mean, her weight and size, I mean, she wouldn't have been as big as any of us. I think she only weighed like 100 pounds, maybe.
I think she was, to be honest with you, I think she was a little bit heavier than that, but not much.
Yeah, she was basically like 1/3 or a quarter mass of his size.
Yeah.
Just handled him like a toy.
She had no issues with him. You know, no issues dragging him like that. Yeah. I don't know if you guys ever saw that, the rest of you guys, but it was pretty impressive watching her pretty much make a fool out of this guy. But yeah, it was pretty impressive. That's for sure. What's that? Oh, that Shawn said something. So Gary, as far as the gentleman you were with, did they get an eyeball on anything that weekend, that over that time period? You know of?
I actually contacted them later that morning.
Yep.
Talked to them, but they not seen the big match. They seen the track. And I actually kind of lied out of my face. I told him I had a family emergency, and he kind of snickered a little bit. And he said, yeah, family emergency, my foot. That must have been a pretty serious family emergency, for you to sling gravel all over us like you did. But they did have that later. The one told me that today, he said that he seen one coming down the hill, as we was coming down. But no, they did not see the big male, or the one that I see.
Right.
Okay. But they tracked around the tents, and where I had spun out, they had seen that the ones that told me, pretty close to the distance of the trials. And that was corresponded with what I heard. They said, they found 3 good deep impression tracks in the gravel, and I heard 3 hits, 3 steps.
Right. So yeah, so as far as you know, have they, continued with this field, or?
No, they said they left after I did. They said when they seen the tracks and seen me leave, they left shortly after.
Yeah, but I'm saying for good. For good, that was it for them.
Oh no, they're still active research.
Oh, okay. I got you.
No, they're still. It didn't affect them. Of course, they didn't see what I seen, but
yeah, right.
Still, and that's the reason. Like I said, just out of respect, I'm not going to. If I'm discredited or something like that, I don't want to bring it upon them, because we don't have a stronger relationship as I do with you guys. You know what I mean?
Right. I get it. Yeah. I totally get it. Yeah. Gary, I know, Shawn, myself, Travis, JR, we all have had encounters, but not from that distance that you did. I can't even imagine. I know what it felt like seeing one from, 30, 40 feet away, let alone what you did. That's just,
Well, I've always wondered, is JR still on?
He's still here.
I know he said he's seen a couple, and he has talked about it in the past about him being, that group that he deals with kind of on the aggressive side.
Yes.
How far away was your sightings, JR?
My initial sighting was like 40 yards up the hill. It was like a real steep up the hill, straight up to the left. It was a blur. I've had 2 sightings, but I don't have anything rock solid I can put it on to say that it was, hey, that was a Sasquatch, dude. But
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you do have a lot of experiences, and the point that I was getting at is it.
yes.
I've heard you say it kind of in the past too that it actually kind of changed your mentality about when you go out in the woods too, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's kind of thinking about that earlier. It did kind of change my mentality. Whenever I very first went out and I very first started trying to tinker around with the idea of this, it changed it, but it was almost like, well, I'm not really surprised because I always knew that there was something out of here. I always knew that there was something. But
Yeah.
as far as that first initial sighting, it did change things, and it was kind of a game changer. I'm actually kind of surprised. That I was able to walk up on the damn thing like I did. It was kind of weird. Like I thought they were sharper than that. Maybe I just got lucky that day. But it definitely changed a lot of things for that.
Maybe
Certainly a game changer.
that was
yeah.
decoy so the other feet away or something like that.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I mean, you
You
never know.
This is kind of a healing deal for me. Talking about this, but Shawn, I know you had some pretty harrowing experiences, but in between us 4 guys, the reason I'm saying this, I want to ask y'all if y'all agree with me that it is harrowing when you see it, but then afterwards it almost consumes you, and then it's almost like you're addicted to it.
Totally.
Are y'all the same way?
Yeah, 100%. I want to know what I'm dealing with when I go out into the woods now. For sure.
Yeah, I agree, Sean. Yeah, Gary, I agree with Sean 100% on that. Travis, what are your thoughts on that, man?
Oh no, I'm totally different in the woods now. My little girl, she's 4 years old. I take her out to a lot. We fish. I've actually taken her hunting. Which we don't produce much with a 4-year-old in the woods.
Right.
Being out, I never take her out at night, ever, period. Even during the daytime when I take her out, I literally keep her about 3 feet in front of me or I have my hand on her.
Right.
And the reason being is I've experienced too much myself. I've talked to too many people that have experienced. I mean, it's like Gary talking about not sleeping in a tent. I don't sleep in a tent. And the reason I don't sleep in a tent is because about 20 years ago, I had one of the damn things walk up behind the tent at 4:30 in the morning in the rain and start poking on the back of the tent. I just, I don't. The woods to me would be like trying to sleep in Afghanistan. It's not the same. It'll never be the same for me.
It does change it permanently. It does.
Yeah.
Changes your perspective.
Well, gentlemen.
I was just gonna.
Travis talking about his daughter. I got a very good report from a very credible witness in my mind, and that's Mr. Randy Arrington. And he has no doubt in his mind the lady that it came from. This happened back in the early 60s, I think he said. But it was a very good friend of his. She was a young lady at the time, like 10 or 11 years old, and never been into Bigfoot, but the way she described it, he put the 2 and 2 together. She was sitting at the edge of a wood line that was raised up in northwestern Missouri. And, and back in that time, there was still a lot of farmland, farm community, which it still is. But, it was a whole different world than it is now. And she was sitting in the edge of the wood line reading a book underneath her favorite tree. And something made her look to her left into the wood line. And she said not 18 inches from her face was something big with a round face, flat nose, large mouth, large shoulders, crawling through the brush on its hands and knees.
What?
She said she just jumped, screamed, and ran to the house. And the way he put it to me, he says, Gary, I've been doing this a very long time. He goes, to me, that's what I think of when I see a missing 411 case.
Yeah. I got to agree because that position, it's, and we got escorted out. We saw one kind of like, the eyes and the silhouette in that army type crawl, and that would seem, like you said, Gary, how they would do that,
Yeah.
If it is in fact, I do believe that some of the 411 cases, these things are responsible for. I believe other things are responsible as well, but I believe some of them are, and that, that just freaked, that really, that made me, it kind of freaked me out a little bit.
True story with us, gentlemen. Me and my wife down in our research area. I've got physical and photographical proof of one standing coming up behind. We had a latrine set up for my wife in a certain area, and kind of a view of brush piles. The brush piles was 10 feet tall, and I've got the photographical evidence that something had come up over a period of 3 or 4 nights and was standing on the back side of the brush pile and had pushed down the brush pile, watching my wife urinate, spread the brush apart. I have the pictures. When I get power, I'll send them to you. But these things are a natural being. They are overrun with natural hormones and natural philosophies, and they don't have the sociological taboos that we do.
No.
It's very discerning for me. That's the reason I'm very careful when I take my wife out with me, and I just. Man, I've heard too many stories of them. That's the reason you always hear stories of them messing with young teenage girls' windows. They're pawing at the windows and stuff. Yeah, there's more than, honestly, I'm gonna be blunt, and I don't care if anybody. I ain't got nothing to prove to nobody, but there's a crossover of that DNA for a reason, folks.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that as well. I mean. Yeah. It's definitely. I won't lie either, Gary. When we first lived on the property back in 2016 in the camper, after Stacy had that encounter with that big one, she would go berry picking, and she would hear it following her around. She wouldn't see it, but she would hear it, pacing her as she would pick berries. She'd stop. And it would stop, So after a while, I wouldn't allow her to go out there and pick berries anymore alone, because like you said, who knows, there's no sociological taboos, I think we lost Gary. Gary,
no, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm just running a lot of stuff through my head. This has been a thought-provoking show.
Absolutely.
You know how many missing 911 cases I've read out of California, David Pilatus's, especially out of Mount Shasta area, of single females getting disappeared.
Yep. Absolutely. It's definitely scary. Definitely scary. It's unpleasant to think about. It's when and you're right, when you sit there and you think about it, it's freaky. It's scary, in a way, But, gentlemen, I hate to do this. Getting up there in the hour, but Gary, I can't thank you enough, man. You guys and I were extremely stoked for this interview. Thank you so much, man. I know it's a rough one for you to talk about, bro. I know it is, and I get it, and I know these guys do too. So
For sure.
Thank you so much, man.
It's a therapy thing, man. I mean, when you get past and I don't know who I heard say it. I think it was John Switzer. Say when you get to the point that you just don't give a shit no more.
Yeah.
And you start talking about it, it does help. But it makes it kind of worse too, because y'all know what's going on at our research property, and the difference in me and somebody else is I know what I'm dealing with.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
But
Exactly.
I appreciate you fellas giving me the opportunity. Y'all know y'all are welcome on my show. Actually, I want to get with JR and Travis and Shawn and Jeremiah. You know, we always got our projects going, but
Absolutely, man.
I'd like to have Shawn come on and tell me a story, and have JR come on, and I know we could get in trouble.
No, God, Shawn, me and Travis we'd have to come on and chaperone you too.
Absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah, we need to do this on my show, because I've been putting my show
Absolutely.
off helping you on yours.
Absolutely.
Anytime, man. I'd be happy to come on.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a great, I had a great time, man. I couldn't ask for a better group of guys, so, but, yeah, thanks again, Gary. And, I hope everyone out there, appreciates, Gary doing this for us, because, yeah,
thank you.
We've all, these encounters aren't easy to deal with. So anyway,
it's definitely an interesting night tonight.
What's that, bud? I kind of lost you there again.
I just think this will be an interesting book tonight. I'm probably going to be up as a nut.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Me too. What's up?
Tell you, I'm going to say this and I'm going to hush. If I had a purpose, it would be to stop all of this friendly force giant.
Yes.
I'm going to go hug a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Philosophy, because they're only to find out. I'm not saying these things are evil. I'm not saying that they're
right,
but they don't want to be messed with.
No, they're an apex predator, and that yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. JR, thank you, sir.
Thank
always
you.
A pleasure. Shawn, always a pleasure. Travis, always a pleasure. Gary, always a pleasure. I sent you guys some pics. Take a peek. So next weekend we shall see everybody again, and you gentlemen have a good evening. And again, if you want to get a hold of any of us, Shawn, myself, JR, and Travis all have the same email, on the trail our initials. So at gmail.com, if you want to come on the show, even if you just want to vent, get a hold of us, and we're gonna make Gary a secret email at some point here soon too. So anyway, yeah, Gary, man, I can't thank you enough for everything, and it's been a pleasure as usual. Yep. Gentlemen, y'all have a good evening.
Have a good night, guys.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Right,
good night to everyone out there. Thanks for all the support.